You're fired. Dr. Roberts slammed the papers down. Mike Torres stared in shock, fired for fixing an ambulance that saved a dying patient. 3 weeks later, he pulled an unconscious man from a burning car, not knowing he'd just rescued the billionaire CEO whose life he'd already saved once before. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. You're fired, Mike. Hospital administrator Dr. Roberts slammed the termination letter on the maintenance desk. Pack your tools and get out. Security will escort you from the building in 10 minutes. Mike Torres looked up from his coffee, confused and shocked. At 35, he had worked as the hospital's head mechanic for 8 years. He maintained all the ambulances, medical equipment, and hospital vehicles. His work was always perfect, and he had never been in trouble before. What did I do wrong? Mike asked, standing up slowly. His work uniform was clean and pressed, just like every day. He took pride in his job because it helped save lives. You violated hospital policy, Roberts snapped. Yesterday you fixed ambulance number 7 without proper authorization. You used expensive parts without getting approval first. The repair cost $3,000. Mike's heart sank. He remembered yesterday clearly. Ambulance 7 had broken down while carrying a heart attack patient to the emergency room. The engine had failed completely and the patient was dying. Mike had worked for 2 hours in the parking lot to get it running again. Dr. Roberts, that ambulance was carrying a dying patient, Mike explained. I had to fix it immediately. There was no time to fill out paperwork or wait for approval. I don't care about excuses, Roberts replied coldly. Rules are rules. You cost this hospital money by using unauthorized parts. We can't have mechanics making expensive decisions without permission. Mike felt anger rising in his chest. So I should have let the patient die while filling out forms? That's not your decision to make, Roberts said. You're just a mechanic. Your job is to follow orders, not think for yourself. The words stung like a slap across Mike's face. For 8 years he had worked nights, weekends, and holidays to keep the hospital vehicles running. He had saved the hospital thousands of dollars by doing repairs instead of buying new equipment. But none of that mattered now. Please, Dr. Roberts, Mike said quietly. I have a 10-year-old daughter to support. I'm a single father. This job is all I have. Should have thought about that before breaking the rules, Roberts replied without sympathy. Security will be here in 5 minutes. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Mike packed his tools into his old toolbox with shaking hands. His daughter Emma was counting on him. She needed school supplies, clothes, and food. Their small apartment rent was due next week. Without this job, they would be homeless within a month. As security guards waited by the door, Mike walked past the ambulance bay one last time. Ambulance 7 sat there, running perfectly after his repair work. The same ambulance that had carried a dying patient to safety. The same ambulance that had cost him his job. Hey Mike, called out paramedic Jenny Martinez. I heard what happened. This is completely unfair. That ambulance saved Mr. Richardson's life yesterday. Mr. Richardson? Mike asked, stopping to listen. Yeah, the older gentleman we brought in during the heart attack, Jenny explained. He's still in intensive care, but the doctors say he'll make a full recovery. If you hadn't fixed that ambulance, he would have died in the parking lot. Mike nodded sadly. At least something good had come from his firing. A man's life had been saved, even if it cost Mike everything. I put in a good word for you with the union representative, Jenny continued. Maybe they can help you fight this. Thanks, Jenny, Mike replied. But I need to focus on finding another job quickly. Emma can't wait for union politics. Over the next 2 weeks, Mike applied for every mechanic job in the city. He had excellent skills and 8 years of experience, but finding work was harder than expected. Most shops wanted younger mechanics or were not hiring at all. His savings account was nearly empty. The rent was overdue and Emma needed new shoes for school. Mike had sold his watch, his television, and most of his tools to pay for groceries. Still, it was not enough. Emma noticed her father's stress, even though Mike tried to hide it from her. She was a smart girl with her mother's kind eyes and Mike's stubborn determination. Her mother had died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving Mike to raise Emma alone. Dad, are you okay? Emma asked one evening as they ate cheap pasta for dinner again. You seem worried about something. I'm fine, sweetheart, Mike lied, forcing a smile. Just thinking about work stuff. Don't worry about it. But Emma was not fooled. She had heard him on the phone, desperately calling employers and explaining why he needed a job immediately. She had seen him counting coins to buy milk at the grocery store. Maybe I can get a paper route, Emma suggested. Lots of kids at school have jobs. I could help pay for things. Mike's heart broke a little. His 10-year-old daughter should be thinking about toys and games, not working to pay bills. He had failed as a father, and now Emma was trying to fix his mistakes. Absolutely not, Mike said firmly but gently. Your job is to be a kid and do well in school. I'll figure out the money situation. That's my responsibility, not yours. 3 weeks after being fired, Mike was walking home from another failed job interview when he heard a terrible crash. A delivery truck had collided with a luxury car at the busy intersection ahead. Steam poured from both vehicles and traffic was backing up in all directions. Mike ran toward the accident, his mechanic instincts taking over. The delivery truck driver was conscious but shaken. However, the luxury car's driver was slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious and bleeding from a head wound. Someone call 911. Mike shouted as he approached the expensive car. It was a brand-new Mercedes sedan, badly damaged from the impact. The driver appeared to be an older businessman in his 60s. Mike tried to open the driver's door, but it was jammed shut from the collision. The car's engine was making dangerous noises, and he could smell gasoline leaking onto the hot pavement. If the car caught fire, the unconscious driver would burn alive. The door won't open, a bystander yelled. We need the fire department to cut him out. There's no time, Mike replied, looking around quickly. The ambulance is at least 10 minutes away, and this car could explode any moment. Mike ran to his truck and grabbed his emergency toolbox. He always carried basic tools even after losing his job. Working quickly, he managed to pry open the damaged door using a crowbar and some mechanical knowledge. The unconscious man was breathing but needed immediate medical attention. Mike carefully pulled him from the wrecked car just as smoke began pouring from the engine compartment. 30 seconds later, the Mercedes burst into flames. You saved his life, said a woman who had watched the rescue. That car would have killed him. Mike knelt beside the injured man, checking his pulse and keeping him comfortable until the paramedics arrived. The man's wallet had fallen from his jacket, and Mike noticed an identification card that made him pause. The name on the ID was Robert Richardson. Mike remembered that name from somewhere, but he could not place it immediately. The ambulance arrived and loaded the injured man onto a stretcher. Mike recognized the paramedics as his former co-workers from the hospital. Jenny Martinez was driving Ambulance 7, the same ambulance Mike had been fired for repairing. Mike? Jenny called out as they prepared to leave. What are you doing here? I saw the accident and helped get the driver out, Mike explained. Is he going to be okay? Looks like a concussion and some cuts, but nothing life-threatening, Jenny replied. Thanks to you pulling him out before the car exploded. You're a hero. As the ambulance drove away, Mike suddenly remembered where he had heard the name Robert Richardson. Jenny had mentioned that name 3 weeks ago when explaining about the patient whose life Mike had saved by fixing the ambulance. This was the same man. Mike had now saved Robert Richardson's life twice, and Richardson had no idea who Mike was or what he had sacrificed to help him. Over the next few days, Mike could not stop thinking about the strange coincidence. He decided to research Robert Richardson online to learn more about the man whose life he had saved twice. What Mike discovered shocked him completely. Robert Richardson was not just any businessman. He was the founder and CEO of Richardson Automotive, one of the largest car manufacturing companies in the country. His company employed over 50,000 people and was worth billions of dollars. Richardson had started the company 30 years ago with a simple philosophy: treat employees fairly, build quality products, and always do the right thing. His company was famous for having excellent worker benefits and ethical business practices. Mike stared at Richardson's photo on the company website. This was definitely the same man he had pulled from the burning car. The same man whose heart attack had led to Mike's firing when he fixed the ambulance without permission. An idea began forming in Mike's mind. Richardson's company was always hiring skilled mechanics for their service centers. With Mike's experience and skills, he would be perfect for the job. But getting Richardson's attention would be difficult. The CEO of a billion-dollar company would not normally meet with unemployed mechanics. Mike spent 2 days planning his approach carefully. He could not simply walk into Richardson Automotive and ask for a job. He needed something that would make Robert Richardson want to meet with him personally. Mike wrote a detailed letter explaining everything that had happened. He described how he had been fired for saving Richardson's life the first time by fixing the ambulance. He explained how he had rescued Richardson from the burning car 3 weeks later. He included newspaper clippings about the car accident and his termination letter from the hospital. The letter was respectful but direct. Mike was not asking for charity or special treatment. He was simply explaining the situation and requesting a chance to prove his worth as an employee. Mike hand-delivered the letter to Richardson Automotive's corporate headquarters. He gave it to the security guard with specific instructions that it must reach Robert Richardson personally. The guard promised to pass it along, but Mike knew there was no guarantee the CEO would ever see it. For 1 week Mike heard nothing. He continued applying for other jobs while waiting for any response from Richardson Automotive. His savings were completely gone, and the landlord was threatening eviction. Emma had started eating smaller portions at dinner, claiming she was not very hungry. Mike knew she was trying to help save money, which broke his heart even more. His daughter should not have to worry about such things. On Friday evening Mike's phone rang. The caller ID showed Richardson Automotive's main number. Mike's hands shook as he answered the call. "Is this Mike Torres?" asked a professional female voice. "Yes, this is Mike," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Sarah Chin, executive assistant to Mr. Robert Richardson. Mr. Richardson would like to meet with you on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Can you be at our corporate headquarters?" Mike could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Yes, absolutely. I'll be there." "Excellent. Please bring your resume and any relevant work certificates. Mr. Richardson is looking forward to meeting you." Monday morning arrived with rain and gray clouds, but Mike felt hopeful for the first time in weeks. He wore his best suit, which was old but clean and pressed. He arrived at Richardson Automotive headquarters 15 minutes early. The building was impressive, modern glass and steel construction with the company logo prominently displayed. Inside, the lobby was filled with displays showing the company's history and achievements. Sarah Chin met Mike in the lobby and escorted him to the executive floor. She was professional and friendly, putting Mike at ease despite his nervousness. "Mr. Richardson is very interested in your story," Sarah explained as they walked. "He doesn't usually meet personally with job applicants, but your situation is quite unusual." They stopped at a large office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Behind an impressive desk sat Robert Richardson, looking much healthier than the last time Mike had seen him. "Mr. Torres," Richardson said, standing up and extending his hand. "Please have a seat. I believe we have quite a bit to discuss." Richardson looked older than his photos, with gray hair and kind eyes that reminded Mike of his own father. His handshake was firm and his manner was direct but friendly. "First, I want to thank you for saving my life," Richardson began. "Twice apparently. I had no idea the same person was involved in both incidents until I received your letter." "I was just doing what anyone would do," Mike replied modestly. "No, that's not true," Richardson said firmly. "Most people would not risk their career to help a stranger. Most people would not run toward a burning car to save someone they don't know. You did both." Richardson picked up Mike's termination letter from his desk. "I've done some investigating since receiving your letter. What happened to you at the hospital is completely unacceptable. You saved my life by fixing that ambulance and they fired you for it." Mike remained silent, unsure how to respond. "I called Dr. Roberts personally," Richardson continued. "I told him exactly what I thought of his decision to fire you. I also made it clear that my company will no longer donate to that hospital until they change their ridiculous policies." Mike was surprised by Richardson's direct approach. Most executives would have handled the situation more diplomatically. "I don't need charity, Mr. Richardson," Mike said quietly. "I just need a chance to work and support my daughter. And that's exactly why I'm going to hire you," Richardson replied with a smile. "But not as charity. I'm hiring you because you're exactly the kind of person I want working for my company." Richardson explained that his company was opening a new service center across town. They needed an experienced head mechanic to manage the facility and train new employees. The job would pay significantly more than Mike's hospital position, with full benefits and opportunities for advancement. "But there's one condition," Richardson added. "I want you to help me change how we handle emergency situations. Your experience at the hospital taught you something important about the difference between following rules and doing what's right." Mike listened carefully as Richardson explained his vision. The new service center would be different from typical automotive shops. It would focus on serving the community, including emergency repairs for essential vehicles like ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars. "I want to create a place where mechanics are empowered to make the right decisions," Richardson said. "Sometimes saving lives is more important than following procedures." The job offer was more than Mike had dared to hope for. Good pay, excellent benefits, and the chance to make a real difference in the community. Most importantly, he would be able to provide properly for Emma again. "There's just one more thing," Richardson added with a mysterious smile. I have a surprise for you. Richardson led Mike to a conference room where several other people were waiting. Mike recognized Jenny Martinez, the paramedic from the hospital. There were also several other people he did not know. Mike, Richardson announced, I'd like you to meet the board of directors of the Richardson Foundation, our company's charitable organization. The foundation, Richardson explained, provided grants and support for healthcare facilities, emergency services, and community programs. They had been investigating the hospital's policies after learning about Mike's situation. We've decided to make some changes, said board member Dr. Patricia Williams. Starting next month, the Richardson Foundation will provide grants specifically for emergency medical equipment repairs. No paramedic or patient should suffer because of bureaucratic delays. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. Richardson handed Mike an envelope with his name on it. This is a check for $10,000, Richardson explained. It's not charity. It's payment for the consulting work you're going to do, helping us design emergency repair protocols for medical facilities throughout the state. Mike opened the envelope and stared at the check in disbelief. $10,000 was more money than he had ever seen at one time. It would solve all his immediate financial problems and give Emma the security she deserved. I don't know what to say, Mike said, his voice thick with emotion. Say you'll take the job, Richardson replied with a laugh. And say you'll help us make sure no other mechanic gets fired for saving lives. Mike accepted the job offer immediately. He started work the following Monday as head mechanic and emergency services coordinator for Richardson Automotive's new community service center. The job was everything Richardson had promised and more. Mike managed a team of 12 mechanics who specialized in maintaining emergency vehicles and essential community equipment. They worked closely with hospitals, fire departments, and police stations throughout the region. Best of all, Mike had the authority to approve emergency repairs without waiting for bureaucratic approvals. When lives were at stake, mechanics could act immediately and handle the paperwork later. Emma was thrilled with their improved situation. They moved to a larger apartment in a better neighborhood, and Mike was able to buy her new clothes and school supplies. For the first time since her mother's death, Emma felt secure and happy. I'm proud of you, Dad, Emma told him one evening as they ate dinner at their new dining table. You always do the right thing even when it's hard. Mike smiled at his daughter, remembering all the difficulties they had overcome together. Sometimes doing the right thing costs us something, he replied. But it usually works out in the end. News of Mike's story spread throughout the medical and automotive communities. Other hospitals began reviewing their emergency repair policies, realizing that rigid bureaucracy could cost lives in critical situations. The Richardson Foundation's Emergency Repair Grant Program became a model for other organizations. Within 6 months, 12 hospitals in the state had received grants to establish emergency repair funds, ensuring that critical equipment could be fixed immediately when needed. Mike became a spokesperson for the program, speaking at medical conferences and automotive trade shows. He told his story to audiences of doctors, administrators, and mechanics, helping them understand the importance of empowering frontline workers to make life-saving decisions. Dr. Roberts, the hospital administrator who had fired Mike, was eventually reassigned to a non-critical position after an investigation revealed multiple instances of poor judgment and inflexible management. The hospital issued a public apology and invited Mike to return, but he was much happier in his new position. Under Mike's leadership, the Richardson Automotive Community Service Center became a model for ethical business practices. They provided free emergency repairs for qualifying community organizations and offered training programs for unemployed mechanics. Mike hired several mechanics who had been laid off from other jobs, giving them second chances similar to what Richardson had given him. He made sure his employees understood that their primary mission was serving the community, not just making money. The service center also partnered with local schools to provide automotive training for high school students. Mike personally taught classes on emergency vehicle maintenance, passing along the skills and values that had guided his own career. Emma often visited the service center after school, doing homework in Mike's office and learning about automotive repair. She was proud of her father's work and inspired by the positive impact he was making in the community. 1 year after being fired from the hospital, Mike received an unexpected visitor at the service center. Dr. Roberts walked into the shop, looking uncomfortable and embarrassed. Mike, Dr. Roberts began hesitantly, I owe you an apology. What I did to you was wrong and I've regretted it every day since. Mike looked up from the ambulance engine he was servicing. Ironically, the same ambulance 7 that had started everything. He wiped his hands on a shop rag and faced his former boss. I've lost my position at the hospital, Dr. Roberts continued. The board of directors reviewed my decisions and found them unacceptable. They were right to do so. Mike felt no satisfaction in hearing about Dr. Roberts' downfall. Revenge had never been his goal. He had simply wanted to work and support his family while helping others. I'm sorry to hear that, Mike said sincerely. What will you do now? I'm not sure, Dr. Roberts admitted. I'm having trouble finding another administrative position. It seems my reputation has been damaged. Mike considered the situation carefully. Dr. Roberts had treated him unfairly, but everyone deserved a second chance. That was one of the lessons Robert Richardson had taught him. We're looking for someone to handle administrative work here at the service center, Mike offered. It's not a high-level position, but it's honest work. You'd be coordinating with hospitals and emergency services to schedule repairs and manage our grant programs. Dr. Roberts looked surprised by the unexpected offer. You would hire me after what I did to you? Everyone makes mistakes, Mike replied. The question is whether you've learned from yours. Dr. Roberts accepted the position and proved to be a dedicated employee. Working closely with the mechanics and emergency services personnel gave him a new perspective on the importance of frontline workers and flexible policies. 5 years after his firing and hiring, Mike had built the Richardson Automotive Community Service Center into one of the most respected facilities in the state. They had prevented dozens of equipment failures that could have cost lives, and their training programs had helped hundreds of mechanics find good jobs. Emma, now 15, had decided she wanted to study engineering and eventually work in the automotive industry. She spent summers working at the service center, learning advanced mechanical skills and business management. Robert Richardson remained actively involved in the foundation's work, often visiting the service center to see the programs in action. He and Mike had become close friends, bonded by their shared commitment to doing the right thing regardless of the cost. The Emergency Repair Grant Program had expanded to cover 8 states, helping dozens of hospitals and emergency services maintain critical equipment. The program had saved countless lives by ensuring that ambulances, fire trucks, and medical equipment never sat broken while bureaucrats debated repair costs. Mike often reflected on the chain of events that had led him from unemployment to success. Being fired for fixing the ambulance had seemed like the end of the world at the time. But it had actually been the beginning of something much better. Mike's story became a case study in business schools and management programs, illustrating the importance of empowering employees to make ethical decisions in critical situations. His experience showed that sometimes the most expensive choice in the short term is actually the most cost-effective in the long run. The lesson was simple but powerful. When you do the right thing for the right reasons, good things usually follow. It might not happen immediately, and it might not happen in the way you expect, but justice and fairness have a way of prevailing in the end. Mike had learned that being fired for fixing an ambulance was not the end of his career. It was the beginning of his true calling. Sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what really matters and find where you truly belong. As Mike watched Emma work on an engine one summer afternoon, he smiled at how perfectly everything had worked out. His daughter was growing up strong and confident, surrounded by people who valued hard work, integrity, and service to others. The ambulance that had started it all, Ambulance 7, still came to the service center for regular maintenance. Every time Mike worked on it, he remembered the choice that had cost him one job but led him to something infinitely better. In the end, Mike realized that the best revenge is not hurting those who wronged you, but building something so good and meaningful that their small-minded actions become irrelevant. Success and integrity are the ultimate forms of justice.